Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Greater Houston Partnership's 2018 State of the City Address. Please rise for the presentation of colors by the Houston Police and Fire Department's Joint Honor Guard and the Pledge of Allegiance by high school performing arts students Aldine ISD, Bishop Pearsall, and Jasmine Charles, Tommy Tune Scholarship nominees, followed by the singing of our national anthem, performed by Chandra Hall Bloomfield Mulligan, James Madison in Hamilton, the Hobby Center.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the rampart we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for a short prayer led by Rabbi Amy Weiss, founder and executive director, Undies for Everyone.
God of everyone, our prayers have not changed so much since Harvey was visited upon us. We still ask for strength as everyone from our neighbors to the mayor work to bring healing to still broken hearts and homes, to individual families, and to our communities. We still ask for patience because there are hard questions that must be answered in the complicated times in which we live. These days, we ask for help in remembering that compassion is essential to the success of our great city. As citizens of the most diverse city in America, we ask you to remind us that we are all created in your image, every one of us, though we look different from our neighbor. Enough with asking you for help. Let's thank you for the food we are about to receive. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Blessed are you, ruler of the universe, who brings bread from the earth. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the President and CEO of the Greater Houston Partnership, Bob Harvey.
Please take your seats. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see you all here this afternoon. My name is Bob Harvey. I'm the President and CEO of the Greater Houston Partnership. And I'm very excited to see all of you here for the annual State of the City Luncheon featuring Mayor Sylvester Turner. Now, let me tell you, we have a new format this year. I'm very excited about this, but I want to make you aware of it beforehand. Mayor Turner will be providing brief remarks after lunch, and then we'll move into a fireside chat format, and Scott McClellan will interview the mayor for a few more minutes. So let's look forward to that. I want to thank the individuals that participated in what you just witnessed. That was the Houston Police and Fire Department Joint Honor Guard that presented the colors. Bishop Pearsall and Jasmine Charles were the two individuals that presented the Pledge of Allegiance. They're Tommy Toon Scholarship nominees, and Carver High School Performing Arts students. I also want to thank Chandra Broomfield from the cast of Hamilton at the Hobby Center, who sang the national anthem. And finally, I want to thank Rabbi Amy Weiss, founder and executive director of Undies for Everyone, who provided today's invocation. Now, my staff got a little bit of a chuckle out of the fact that I would be saying Undies for Everyone in front of this group. But if you don't know about this organization, in 2016, they provided 160,000 pair of underwear to disadvantaged students, with the idea being to enhance the self-image of these students by providing them with new underwear. Since Hurricane Harvey, they have distributed 2 million pair of underwear to individuals affected by the hurricane. 2 million pair. As Amy just mentioned, many of us emptied out our closets to provide clothing donations, but the one thing that gets missed in that is the undergarments, so it filled a very big need. So can we have another round of applause for all of the individuals who participated in the opening ceremony? Now, as most of you know, the Greater Houston Partnership has been working to make Houston greater for approximately 175 years. We take on the region's most pressing issues. Our scope encompasses the 11-county Greater Houston region, of course centered and anchored by the city of Houston itself. Now, this has always been an exciting event. We're particularly pleased to gather today to hear the Mayor's State of the City address. And as you all know, this mayor in particular has a deep love for Houston and works every day with passion and determination to make Houston even better. So Mayor Turner, we're delighted to have you here this afternoon. We look forward to hearing your remarks. Now, the partnership is committed to maintaining Houston's position as a great place to do business and simply to make Houston greater. As an organization, we have worked hard to make an impact in a few critical areas. And of course, last year we worked closely with the mayor to develop a comprehensive pension reform plan for Houston, which has led the nation in terms of municipal finance reform. Now, with respect to the hurricane, of course, Houston has been changed forever. We saw the best of Houston, as we've said many times, neighbor helping neighbor, stranger helping stranger, and people across the country marveled at the leadership demonstrated by our local government officials and the civic leadership of the city. So in the face of adversity, Houston clearly passed the test, but the work is certainly not done, and following the storm, we have all focused our efforts now on building a more resilient region. Now, the partnership is also focused on new opportunities for growth in our economic sectors, not least of which is the innovation economy. Last October, we announced the formation of Houston Exponential, or HX, which was launched through the combined efforts of the Partnership's Innovation Roundtable, the Mayor's Innovation and Technology Task Force, and Houston Technology Center. HX is now playing the lead role in convening key players in the innovation ecosystem to focus on near and long-term strategies to transform Houston. Now, you may have also heard last week with the recent announcement 2 weeks ago of the development of an innovation district centered around Midtown, centered around Rice's new or old Midtown Sears building. We're very excited about what the addition of that innovation district hub might mean for Houston. And last week you heard the announcement that TMC3 is moving forward, a multi-institutional translational research campus, 30-acre campus, operated by TMC in conjunction with 4 other players. So these are all great wins for Houston, moving our innovation and digital economy forward. Mayor Turner, again, thank you for your hard work on behalf of the city. We look forward to hearing your plans for the city for the coming year. Let's enjoy our lunch. After lunch, Mark Watts, who's the chair of the Greater Houston Partnership and president of Friedkin, will come to the podium and introduce the speakers for the remainder of the afternoon. Enjoy your lunch. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the chair of the Greater Houston Partnership and president of the Friedkin Group, Mark Watts.
Well, welcome. Good afternoon. As Bob mentioned, I'm Mark Watts, chair of the partnership, president of the Friedkin Group. And what a fantastic crowd we have here today. What an exciting program we have. Looking forward to hearing from Mayor Turner and from hearing what questions Scott McClellan has for him. Mayor, it is a great pleasure and honor for me to be here with you today, and thank you for all your tireless work championing the city of Houston. You've been a great partner, as you'll remember, since when I was chair of the Municipal Finance Task Force, and we successfully achieved our pension reform, a great victory for the city, led by Mayor Turner. So thank you again for being such a strong ally and a tremendous leader. So at this time, I'd like to turn your attention to a brief video acknowledging the sponsors that made today's event possible.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. Your generous support is essential to the success of the Greater Houston Partnership and our mission of making Houston greater. Please join us in thanking today's sponsors. Today's State of the City Diamond sponsor is United Airlines. Our Platinum sponsors are Arcadis US, Inc., Chevron, Citgo Petroleum Corporation, Comcast, HCA Gulf Coast Division, Shell Oil Company, Verizon Wireless. Today's gold level sponsors are BP America, Inc., Carollo Engineers, Inc., Dannenbaum Engineering Corporation, Hunton Andrews Kurth LLP, Linebarger, Gogan, Blair & Sampson LLP. Our silver level sponsors are AECOM, AIG, Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Texas, Bracewell LLP, Bud Light Silver Eagle Distributors, Crown Castle International Corp., ExxonMobil Corporation, HEB, Houston Contractors Association, Houston First Corporation, Jacobs, Norton Rose Fulbright, Orrick, Harrington and Sutcliffe LLP, Parsons, Perry Homes Lock Lord LLP, Port Houston, RPS, S&B Infrastructure Ltd, Southwest Airlines, Texas Central Partners, Texas Medical Center, The Kroger Company, the University of Texas MD Anderson Cancer Center, Traffic Engineers, Inc., University of Houston, Uptown Houston District, Winstead PC. Today's State of the City VIP reception underwriter, Texas A&M University. Networking Cafe underwriter is Reliant, an NRG company. Program underwriter is Zarin Kalk Engineering Services, Inc. Social media underwriter is UT Health. Photo booth underwriter is Wells Fargo. Head table memento is Cigna. Photography underwriter is Haynes and Boone LLP. Welcome entrance underwriter is Clear Channel Outdoor. VIP registration underwriter is Houston Association of Realtors. Also, thanks to our staging partner, J&S Audiovisual Inc., and our production partner, Vision. The Greater Houston Partnership would like to express our appreciation to the members of Houston's Consular Corps for their work to establish positive foreign relations between the Houston region and their respective countries. Their leadership is invaluable to building and maintaining the region's key international relationships. The Greater Houston Partnership would also like to acknowledge our elected officials, the men and women who represent Houston at the local, state, and federal level, for their dedication and commitment to our region. Please join us in thanking all of our sponsors, members of the Consular Corps, and our elected officials.
Well, Well, what an impressive group of sponsors. I'd like to thank you again for all that you do to support the City of Houston, your civic mindedness. Let's give them one more round of applause. So as the video said, we appreciate all that our elected and appointed officials do. At this time, I would like to recognize our federal, state, local, city, county officials. And please stand as I call your name. And let's try to do this in groups. So I'll call a group, and then let's hold our applause until that time. Our federal elected officials, we have here today Congressman John Culberson and Congressman Ted Poe. Would you stand, please? Wonderful to see you both here. State elected officials, we have State Representative Carol Alvarado. Please stand as I call your name. State Representative Anna Hernandez. State Representative Sean Thierry. State Representative Armando Wally. State Representative Jean Wu. State Senator Paul Betancourt. State Senator Sylvia Garcia. State Senator Boris Miles. And last but not least, Senator John Whitmire. Let's give them a big round of applause. From the City of Houston, we have City Controller Chris Brown. Chris, please stand. Let's give Chris a round of applause. And finally, I believe we have every city council member here today. Mayor, that's quite a tribute. We have Mayor Pro Tem Ellen Cohen, Mayor Pro Tem Jerry Davis, Councilman Dwight Boykins, Councilman Jack Christie, Councilwoman Carla Cisneros, Councilwoman Amanda Edwards, Councilman Robert Gallegos, Councilman Mike Knox, Councilman Michael Kubash, Councilman Mike Laster, Councilman Steve Lee, Councilman Dave Martin, Councilman David Robinson, Councilwoman Brenda Stardig, and finally, Councilman Greg Davis. Big round of applause for the city officials. Now please join me in acknowledging the Houston Consular Corps that has joined us here today. If you are a member of the Consular Corps, would you please stand so that we could acknowledge you? And finally, if you're a partnership board member, a fellow board member, please stand. So thank you for all your support of the partnership and the Houston region. It's been a very busy and productive year so far, and Bob, I think it's going to be a much busier and more productive year as we continue. At this time, I'd like to welcome to the stage Marvin Odom, who is the Chief Recovery Officer for the City of Houston, and most of you know the former president of Shell Oil Company. Marvin will introduce our guest of honor, Mayor Sylvester Turner. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Mark. And thanks to the Greater Houston Partnership for this event. And I'm looking around thinking to myself, the mayor certainly knows how to turn out a crowd. Good afternoon, everyone. It is an absolute honor to introduce the mayor on the occasion of the annual State of the City address, especially for this city and especially for this mayor. If you're wondering how I ended up here, it's a cautionary tale, which I'm going to tell you just in case you ever end up in the same position. So just imagine greater than 50 inches of rain falls in a few days. After the rain stops and you're still glued to the television wondering how things are ever going to get put back together again, your phone rings. You don't recognize the number, but you pick it up anyway. And a voice says, "Marvin, this is Sylvester." And you can imagine the rest. Now, that was more than 7 months ago, and I now know my city and my mayor like I never did before. For the city, I have much more appreciation for its complexity, its diversity, its strengths, and its vulnerabilities, its sheer scale, and the economic and social importance that it has to the rest of this nation and even to the world. And there's a lot that we all need to know about the mayor and about the job of mayor. Shortly after that first phone call, I got some fresh insight into what the life of a busy mayor actually looks like. I received a message. Press conference tomorrow, 2 p.m., City Hall, you and the mayor, Harvey Recovery. So I wrote back thoughtfully, I thought, can do. How early should I be there to coordinate messages? And the message came back. Press conference, 2 p.m., City Hall, you and the mayor. So right from the beginning, it was clear that this mayor knows how to make a decision and hates to waste time. So he is my kind of guy. I also learned quickly what the daily, monthly, and term agenda looks like for this mayor. An enormous number of issues across the expanse of human existence, every day, 7 days a week, and at a rapid and often unpredictable pace. It takes enormous capacity to manage that well, and I have total admiration for how Mayor Turner does it. Now, people who study cities will tell you that urban growth will be a defining trend in this century, which means cities are at the heart of some of the world's most pressing challenges, like economic growth, poverty, immigration, health, education, and all of the above done in a way that provides the resiliency that we all need. But it also means that well-led cities will be at the heart of some of the world's most exciting solutions. And of course, now I'm talking about Houston. This mayor recognizes that the scale of Harvey presents Houston with a transformational opportunity. Scale in terms of the amount of effort and money that make up the recovery itself, and scale in terms of the shift in public mindset and political will to address the issues that we have at hand, like affordable housing and flood mitigation. He is clear that in all aspects, the recovery needs to build the city forward to a more resilient state, not just build it back to where it was before. He talks about equity and community in a way that makes it real and actionable. And he speaks with the conviction of firsthand experience with the problems that he wants to solve. He said on day one that he wanted me to make him uncomfortable, both in what we proposed and how fast we proposed to get it done. He's accepted that discomfort, and he's challenged us to go further at every turn. He speaks with deep appreciation for what that will mean for people, and I mean all people. I've observed that Mayor Turner is someone that's equally at ease with heads of state, school children, service workers, CEOs, homeless men and women, immigrant workers, and seventh-generation Texas elite. He brings to one of the most demanding public service jobs in the world the ability to see what Houston needs in 2018 and what it needs 20 years in the future. He brings a willingness to learn and innovate, a seemingly endless capacity for work, a determination to go to the mat for what he believes is right, and an extraordinary kindness and respect for adversaries and supporters alike. Now, we're going to need all of those qualities in the coming months and the coming years, and with them, of course, there's not anything that this city cannot accomplish. Ladies and gentlemen, you now know why I am truly honored to introduce my mayor, our mayor, Sylvester Turner.
Ain't no stopping us now. We got the groove. Hey. Ain't no stopping us now. I know. After that introduction, Marvin made me nervous. Look, let me thank you, Marvin, for a very gracious introduction. And when I asked him to come and lead the recovery effort, I offered him the most that the city had to pay, $1. And he graciously agreed. Please thank him for accepting the role and doing an outstanding job. This is the largest fundraiser I've ever had. Oh, I'm sorry. Wrong, this is the wrong group. I'm sorry. Look, this is my third State of the City speech. We did decide to change the format a little bit. I didn't think you wanted to listen to me for 25 to 30 minutes, and so I'm looking forward to sitting down with Scott. Let me start off by saying the state of our city is strong, and every day we are becoming more resilient, and this city is very much open for business. Harvey was a wake-up call. Yeah, you can clap on that. We are open for business. Harvey was a wake-up call to all of us who set a course for the city's future. As the world looked on us with empathy, we showed the special way that Houstonians are always ready to give to each other, with physical energy, compassion, prayer, money, and volunteerism. But Harvey did not defeat us. We endure because we are stronger when we work together. And during the Harvey flood, dedicated city workers fought high waters to get to work. 2 died in the process. Police Sergeant Steve Perez and Joseph Dowell of Public Works. In fact, there are employees here today from Solid Waste and Public Works, and I want to thank them personally for their commitment to this city, along with all of our municipal employees. Mr. Dowell was a hard worker, making the best of a second chance in life. You see, he had been in and out of jail for about 20 years, went through our reentry program, and was hired in May just before the hurricane. And instead of staying at home, he was determined to be at his post on the night that Hurricane Harvey hit. We ended up finding him a day or two later, having drowned in the waters. Sergeant Perez worked every day to protect our lives. He too circled our city for 2.5 hours, but couldn't get to his post. But instead of going home, he decided to go to another location. And we found him having drowned in those waters. They represent the best of our city. And today, Mr. Dowell's father, Joseph Sr., and his sister Tammy are here with us today. Let's thank them for the service of their son and their brother. Those two represent the spirit of our city. They go over and above. And that's why I can say to you without question, Houston is strong, and Houston is resilient, and Houston is open for business. Houston is bouncing back. We are not where we need to be. We continue to push for federal funding for flood mitigation projects and more affordable and available housing. And I do want to thank Congressman Ted Poe and Congressman John Culverson and the entire congressional delegation for standing up for the city of Houston. Very much appreciated. You can drive into some neighborhoods and you see they are normal, like a storm never hit. But we can't forget the many Houstonians are still displaced and in need of housing, a housing that needs to be remediated, repaired, or reconstructed. And we can't ignore the reality that Houston was hit by 3 500-year storms in 3 consecutive years. A few weeks ago, the City Council passed sweeping changes to Chapter 19, flood prevention reforms for new construction. But let me be very clear. The goal of the city is not to discourage or try to prevent development in our city. But if we are going to build, we must build forward in a way that is more responsible and mitigates the risk of flooding. That is why over the next several months, I will ask City Council to address Chapter 9 and Chapter 13. We also need improvements in our drainage, curbs, and infrastructure. to help prevent future flooding. And that is why the continuation of Rebuild Houston is needed. Some things will have to change. Some of these changes may seem too aggressive, and for others, they may not be aggressive enough. But when we passed the changes to Chapter 19, it was FEMA that wrote the city a letter and issued a press statement stating Houston had become a model for the nation. That is the Houston. That is the Houston I know. We face our challenges head on. We are stronger when we work together. 2017 was an incredible year. Together, we successfully hosted a Super Bowl. Together, with the help of voters, the Greater Houston Partnership, we achieved pension reform. We launched Complete Communities program intended to ensure no neighborhood is left behind. Together, we persevered through Hurricane Harvey. Together, we celebrated with the World Series champion, the Houston Astros. And together, we shall cheer on the Houston Rockets. In a few days, I will present the 2019 budget to City Council. It will close a $114 million gap without layoffs while maintaining a healthy fund balance. I'm asking departments again to reduce their budgets for a third consecutive year, which will total over $80 million in department reductions. Instead of filling vacancies at the city, we are eliminating positions. But even as we protect the taxpayers in those ways, the city must address what is called the Other Post-Employment Benefits, or OPEB. Retiree health care costs have created a $2 billion liability for the city over the past decade. By the time we meet again, the goal is to have a plan in place reducing that liability. At a time when finances are tight, our growing city sorely needs the revenue to increase the number of police officers and provide more resources for police and fire. As a comparison, Chicago has nearly 13,000 police officers covering 275 square miles. The city of Houston has 5,100 police officers covering 640 square miles, and almost 1/3 of those officers are eligible to retire today. This city has been blessed. In 2006, former Mayor Bill White asked the voters for permission to raise $90 million on top of the revenue cap. I will simply say to you that in order for us to have more police officers in the city, the assets that we need to do something similar, or we need to do something to address these concerns. The current model is not sustainable. Our city is growing. People are coming here from all over the world, and we have special events in our city every single week. My number one priority is the safety and security of our citizenry, and we need more police officers. We need greater technology as well as other assets, and cybersecurity is a must. We cannot stand still. We must do more. We have been blessed, but this model that we have in place for a growing, dynamic city must change. And I would be less than honest with you as your CEO to say to you that we cannot continue to cut and add 500 to 600 more police to our force. Last year in my speech, I said technology, innovation, and a vibrant startup community are key drivers of our city's present and future. In the past few weeks and months, Houston has taken huge steps towards becoming a global leader in this area. Working with the Greater Houston Partnership, we combined tech forces into Houston Exponential. We launched the Innovation Hub at the 1938 Sears Building with the help of Rice University and our other outstanding colleges and universities, collaborating to make Houston a world leader in data science and digital technologies. And in yet another collaboration that disrupts a lot of silos, The TMC3 project will bring together the best medical institutions and brightest minds in clinical care, research, and industry. We did not get Amazon, so we will create our own and prepare ourselves for the next opportunity. We will not be left out. As the world's largest medical center continues to innovate, I am also excited that my alma mater, the University of Houston, has proposed and taken definitive steps with HCA for the creation of a new medical school to open in 2020, whose mission it will be to produce physicians who practice in primary care, our first defense in preventing chronic diseases and identifying behavioral and mental health issues. I hope the legislature will give to the University of Houston the support and the help that it needs in order to move not only University of Houston forward, but the city of Houston as well. Last week, Houston was named one of America's most family-friendly cities by Homes.com for several reasons, including park acreage per capita. I want to thank Nancy and Rich Kinder for their generous, historic $70 million donation. To fast-track the Memorial Park Master Plan. Astros owners Jim Crane and his wife Whitney have stepped up to donate $1 million and lead the fundraising to redo Jones Plaza as a theater district park. I want to thank them as well. And when I became mayor, I said I didn't want to govern two cities in one of haves and have-nots. Last year, I launched Complete Communities, starting in 5 neighborhoods: Acres Home, Gulfton, 2nd Ward, near North Side, and 3rd Ward. The goal is to create more complete neighborhoods with access to quality, affordable homes, jobs, well-maintained parks and green space, improved streets and sidewalks, grocery stores, retail, good schools, and transit options. Not too long ago, I met with 29 financial institutions, their CEOs and high-level executives in our city. And what I said to them and asked them is to redirect their community reinvestment dollars, much of it, to many of these communities that have been underserved and under-resourced. Many of the banks said to me, "Mayor, we are doing some of this stuff already." But the reality is, in our city, the divide in some of these communities continue to grow. The paradigm needs to shift. I am asking these financial institutions to partner with the city and let us place these dollars in a way that we receive the greatest bang for our buck. We can provide dollars to individuals. That's a plus for them. But when we change communities, when we change neighborhoods, we will touch more people's lives than just individuals in our city. We need a new direction. While the spotlight has been on our signature parks, we cannot forget about our local neighborhood parks and how much they mean to people who live in local communities. That is why today I'm hoping that someone will make a generous, sizable donation targeting our neighborhood parks in underserved communities. At my church every Sunday, they say, "We have not because you ask not." If you want to receive a blessing, you gotta be a blessing to someone else. Quality schools are another component of Complete Communities. Last week, I asked HISD to stand down from submitting an improvement plan to the Texas Education Agency by yesterday's deadline. I have asked the Commission of Education to grant HISD a 1-year waiver to give it time to find the best solution for our children. Considering Hurricane Harvey's impact on our students and campuses, this is not the time to add to the stress of students, parents, teachers, and others served by HISD. I am committing myself to a leadership role to find and execute the best path forward. By working together, we can develop a viable model with the singular goal of moving all schools up from the improvement required rating. In order for this city to attract businesses from around the globe, our independent school districts must offer a high quality of education. The state's failure to address school finance reform and the failure of past superintendents and board of trustees to improve neighborhood schools have done a disservice to thousands of our children that cannot continue to exist in our city. And therefore, I will explore a model that takes responsibility for low-performing schools, similar to what was done by the mayor in Los Angeles 10 years ago. As we look to the future is bright. If things remain on track in 2019, the bullet train should start construction. If things go as planned in 2019, the Gas Tech Conference and exhibition of 30,000 people will be coming to the city of Houston. When I came into office, we had 450 summer youth jobs. This summer, we are providing 7,500 jobs to Houston students. I want to thank the Greater Houston Partnership for working with me. And next year, the goal is to increase that number by 2,500 jobs. We have to invest in our kids if we are going to protect our future. In 2019, the Ismaili Center, about a $250 to $300 million project, the 7th Ismaili Center in the world, will be starting construction on the Buffalo Bayou. Many people ask me, how did Harvey change us? I would argue that Harvey didn't change us. It showed the world who we are. We are each other's keepers. We get in boats and rescue one another. We feed and clothe one another without a second thought. We help each other to remediate and to rebuild. We are very resilient people working to build a more resilient city, a city we call Houston, and the best for us has yet to come. Thank you so very much.
Well done. Thank you, Mayor Turner. You can have a seat. I know Scott's going to be joining you. Because now my pleasure to introduce Scott McClellan, maybe second only to the mayor as the person who needs no introduction in this city. Scott is the vice chair of the Greater Houston Partnership this year, which means he'll be the chair next year. Of course, he's president of H-E-B Food and Drug, and you all know Scott as the face of the H-E-B commercials. But you may not know how much of a champion for education Scott is. He's the chair of Greater Good Reason. Good Reason. Boy,
Thank
I
you.
can't believe that. I'm on that board. Good Reason Houston, which is our broad cradle-to-career education effort in Houston. So with that, let me turn the floor over to Scott. Now, Scott, we don't have time for the easy questions, so just put the first 2 pages away and go right to the tough questions. Thank you.
Okay. Mayor, you have got a lot going on. I mean, shoot, the pressing question I had was, what's your favorite H-E-B commercial?
Oh, Scott, you may not like my answer. It's that last one, and you're not in it.
Oh, man.
Just kidding. Scott, I like every one of those commercials that you are in. Each one is my favorite.
Where is your next fundraiser? I'm there.
About a month from now.
Well, I'll say this, is one thing about our mayor, he is always on the move. As an example, last Friday night, the mayor flew in from Washington, D.C., where he had represented the city, got in a car, went directly to Discovery Green, gave a speech there, came over to Herman Park. I was at an event there. He was on, just like he was at this speech here. And I think 2 words you used to describe our mayor is capacity and energy. And every time I pull up my Twitter feed, there's a picture of you representing our city somewhere or making a good decision about something that we're doing. And one of the things that you said on Friday night that really stuck with me was you said that you're committed to living a life of no regrets during the time that you're mayor of Houston. And I think what a beautiful way in which to put it. But now you've been in office for 2.5 years. You've seen a lot. You've done a lot. But if you had to point to one thing that you're most proud of, what would that be?
God, I don't know if it's one thing. I will tell you that the number one priority that I was facing when I came in was the pension system. $8.2 billion unfunded liability was growing by $1 million a day. It was crowding out everything else, and it had been unresolved for 17 years. The very fact that we came together collectively and got that squared away, the employee groups, I want to give a lot of credit for all of them, police, municipal workers. Even though we didn't keep fire all the way to the end, they at least they were at the table for those 8 or 9 months, so I want to acknowledge them as well. City Council voted initially 16-1 in favor of it. Great Houston Partnership, Mark, thank you very much. Anthony, Chase, and others came in and helped out quite a bit, and the legislature voted in the Senate and the House, 2/3 margin. The governor signed it, and then in November of last year, even after the hurricane, 3/4 of Houstonians said yes. So I want to thank everybody, and now with the National League of Cities, they have us on the cover as Houston leading the way on pension reform.
Yeah, good for you. Well done. Well, we like to brag about Houston that we do things in a big way, and last year we did a storm in a big way. And the press coverage that we got really was the way in which the recovery occurred. We saw our weather at its worst. I think we saw our people at its best, and you acknowledge that in your comments, and really the leadership that you provided, and Judge Emmett, really we owe so much of a debt of gratitude to you, but I think we'd all acknowledge that there's still a lot to do. And you can really break it into 2 different phases. First would be the repair and the recovery, getting people who have homes and businesses either back into them or get them relocated. And then the second piece would be resiliency, the efforts needed around protecting our homes and our businesses and infrastructure from future disasters. So what do you see as being the biggest needs now for the city of Houston in terms of both repair and resiliency, and how are you looking out to address those needs?
Well, and again, I want to give a great deal of credit to Marvin and to his team, Neil, and all of the department heads who have been working on it. I mean, we have to build stronger, and it has to be much more resilient, and it has to be transformational. And it's going to have to be a little disruptive. I mean, the reality is when you face 3 500-year storms in 3 consecutive years, the odds are you're going to be hit with another. And so normally the mitigation should come before the disaster. We are built on the Bayou City. We need to expand the channels. That's clear. We need more detention, regional detention, as well as on-site detention. That's important. For people in West Houston area, another reservoir. For people in the Kingwood area, on that side of town, dredging, bigger gates, for example, on that side. They've got some sand mining that takes place, and that silt comes into the San Jacinto and Lake Livingston area. I mean, the San Jacinto and Lake Houston, so we need to address that. We need to be mindful, had that storm hit the Galveston Bay, it would have been even more horrific. So the coastal spine is a major project. It's a large one, $12 billion, but it's mitigation before the disaster. So mitigation is critically important. We made changes on Chapter 19. I know that there were some concerns. It wasn't a unanimous vote of City Council. When you're asking people to build higher in the city of Houston, and you're no longer saying we're going to be guided by the 100-year floodplain, but by the 500-year floodplain. But the reality, if we don't do all of these things in combination, we're not going to be as prepared. And lastly, what I would say, I want businesses to be in the area. I want them to expand. I want other businesses to come. But I think people will be reticent to come if they don't see us addressing the issue in a real way. And that's important. Now they see we are doing some things. We will now move to Chapter 9 and Chapter 13. Again, it will be a little disruptive. I understand that. But when I became mayor, I said it was not my desire to be an incrementalist, to do a little bit here and a little bit there, and at the end, you can't see the little bit that I've done. While I am mayor, let's be transformational. Let's build a city that's stronger, that's more resilient. Let's push out of our comfort zone. We can still develop. I want development. We can still build. I want that. But let's do it in a very responsible fashion so that we are not constantly going to the federal government asking them to write a check. And one thing that's been demonstrated by Hurricane Harvey, the federal government is not going to continue to write the checks like they've done in the past. They're not treating us like Louisiana, like New York. So this is a can-do spirit, and in the end, we're going to have to stand up and in large part take care of ourselves.
Yes, understand, absolutely. And you did talk about some of the things about preventing future flooding, looking at the channels, et cetera. What are your thoughts about a third reservoir?
Well, I think we need to have that, either a third reservoir. The question is where exactly you're going to place it, or you have to build capacity, okay? You got to do one or the other or both. So there's no question we need that. But that's on one side. On the other end, the dredging is important, okay, building more gates. So there are multiple things. And again, it's not one thing. It's a series of things that need to be done in combination. The question is where the funding will come from. You know, these things need to take place. Yeah. The mitigation dollars, we're expecting about $1.2 billion in this first round. Most of that will be spent on housing and on infrastructure related to housing. In that second round, at $5 billion, we can look at mitigation dollars for like the third reservoir and some other things. Or I would tell you, this is just me, if I were the state, what I would do is that I would go ahead and advance that $500 million to build that reservoir. And then when the city and the county get their money, we could give it back to the state, but the things would start rolling right now. So that's what I would do.
Well, that sounds like it could be the ounce of prevention,
right?
So that you don't have to come back and repair later on.
Well, we cannot wait. We can ask Mother Nature to wait, but Mother Nature may not pay any attention to us. So I think we have to engage in those mitigation strategies. And I don't forget housing, because we still have 2,000 people in the hotels, and we have thousands of people living in homes that need to be repaired and remediated.
All right, let's switch gears. Let's talk about HISD. You and I have talked about it on numerous occasions, and you touched on it in your comments. But what role do you see the city of Houston having in helping to educate really our diverse population to meet the needs of the workforce that we have in Houston going forward?
Well, you know, the city of Houston is, we're not the superintendent, and no one is attempting to be a superintendent. That's, you know, our plate is quite full. But the realities is that you can't have a dynamic city if your educational institutions are not also dynamic and moving in the same direction. We are inextricably connected, and I can't ignore those realities. There are 17 school districts that traverse the city of Houston, but Houston Independent School District bears our name. And for cities outside of Texas, you know, New York's school systems controlled by the city, so to speak, Chicago, Philadelphia, and all of those, Boston, not interested in doing that. But we do have, because of the bill that was passed in 2015, 1842, if you have schools that's been low performing for 5 consecutive years, the state can step in, either close those schools or take over the management of your entire school district. I don't think that's the right model. But we do have to address those schools that remain in low-performing status for that period of time. I am now committing myself, because too much confusion doesn't do anybody good. Doesn't help HISD, doesn't help the city of Houston. I am committing myself to join with others, business community and others, to see about coming up with a viable model, and I'm talking about like a nonprofit, that can address those schools that are in low-performing status, similar to what Mayor Villaraigosa did in Los Angeles 10 years ago. It was a nonprofit that stepped in. They had a philanthropist who committed $50 million over a 10-year period. They brought in all the necessary resources. It was an intensive support to those low-performing schools, and they were at the bottom. They started turning around those schools. Dropout rate decreased. More kids were going to college, and it worked. If LA was able to do that, and apparently would do it with some success, then Houston needs to look at a similar model. What I do know is that, and I'm not asking anything with city dollars. I got my city council members, so let me be very loud and clear. Not trying to pull any dollars from the city of Houston, but I think we can create a nonprofit where I'm giving supervision leadership to it, and because the reality is, As go education in our city, so will go our city itself. And companies are not going to move into our city if they do not see us providing a quality education. We can't ignore it any longer. We have to address it, and we have to address it head on. And so let's see what we can develop.
Truer words have never been spoken about that than that. I think one of the things that you and I have talked about frequently is in the conversations currently about education is you hear a lot about control and power. And you and I have talked about the real need to focus on kids. And so, and you talked about it, look, not getting the right amount of funding from the state. We've got underperforming schools, the list goes on. And so how do we keep this focus on kids and less about who's leading?
Well, I think you have to stay focused. I mean, who's the consumer?
Yeah.
Who's the ultimate end user? Mm-hmm. These are our kids. And it's our responsibility to be good stewards, okay? What I will say to people in this room and those who are not in this room, you cannot create enough charters to take care of every kid in your public school system. There are 215,000 kids in HISD alone, okay? There is value in public education. We can't give up on public education. I'm a product of the public education system. I'm a product. But it's all of our responsibility, okay? My mom worked as a maid, okay? But it was my neighbor also that was making sure that we were staying on course. And my mom used to always say, look, I'm sending you to school. If the teacher calls and you're acting up and I can't get there, I've given Miss Nims, the next door neighbor, permission to go to you and handle you until I get there. And then you're gonna really have a problem, you know? But the point is, it's a holistic deal. I will say, our schools didn't just start failing yesterday. It didn't just start yesterday. We've had schools even in HISD that have been failing for years. That's why I talk about complete communities. Complete communities just didn't come up overnight. I still live in a neighborhood that's underserved and under-resourced. 2 of the schools that's on that list, those 10 schools, come out of Acres Home. Highland Heights, my daughter went to Wesley. When those 2 schools were exemplary schools, when they pulled those principals and they went other places, the good teachers went with those principals. And those schools came from being exemplary. Now they are on the list that's poised to be closed, okay? So the schools just didn't start failing. They have been failing. What I am saying to people in this room tonight is that we now collectively have a commitment to step in, to provide support, and to let these children know that they are valuable, that we are going to be supportive of them, we're going to surround them with what they need, and it's not just building good quality schools, it's building good quality neighborhoods from which these kids come. And we all have a responsibility to make that happen.
I'll give you a strong amen to that. And thank you, Mayor. And I think for everybody here today, one of the things the Mayor just said is good quality education of our kids starts not just with the Mayor, but with each and every one of us, because the conversation is not about your kids, it's about all of our kids.
These are our children. I don't care who they look like, I don't care where they come from. These are our children. And when you look in the faces of these kids, they are your future city council members. They're your future mayors. They're your future CEOs. They all have potential. And so we have to invest in them, but we cannot find acceptable failing schools. Failing 1 year is failing too many years. And so we will have to change the paradigm. We will have to make some tough decisions because failing schools is not acceptable in the city of Houston. And we should not tolerate it, even whether we have kids in the school systems or not, it should not be tolerated. And we are smart enough to improve the quality of education of every school within our city limits, and we ought to do just that.
Good. I'd like to sit here and talk all afternoon about education, and next to groceries, it's my second favorite topic. But let me switch gears again. Last week we were at the Kinder Institute luncheon where Steve Kleinberg shared the results of his annual survey, something we all look forward to. And I always look to see, hey, what is on Houstonians' mind? And the number one thing right now, traffic.
Traffic.
And so if you look at mobility, and our populations are going to continue to grow, and as that happens, more cars on the road. So what are your thoughts on how we improve traffic congestion within the city and across the region? And what role do you see public transportation playing to include that of Metro?
And I know Karen Padman is here and Tom Lambert with Metro and a number of others that are here. It is the number one concern that people have, getting from point A to point B. More people are coming into our region, so that's important. It has to be multimodal. In the 90s, we made a decision we were going to build roadway capacity, and that was our focus. But now we have to provide people with multiple options. You know, whether it's light rail, whether it's, what do you call it, BBB, bus rapid transit, you know, whether it's that, whether it's providing additional bike lanes, where we're looking at high comfort lanes because safety is critically important, whether it's some form of commuter rail. There are a lot of things that we're looking at. Even now when you're dealing with Uber and Lyft and all of these others that are in our area, you got taxis that are in our area, there are a lot of things that are taking place. What can take you to the last mile of the way? So we have to be very dynamic. I know Metro, and I've talked to Karen at length. We're looking at coming up with a plan that will meet our needs. What I've said to Karen is that we cannot put forth a Metro plan that doesn't move the needle, that doesn't take the ball further down the road. But we have to be smart at it, because now you have autonomous vehicles and a lot of other things that are on our roads that in some cases, in some cities, eating into public transportation, because people are able to get in a vehicle where they let somebody else doing the driving, and you end up having more vehicles on our street and fewer people taking public transportation. Let me encourage people to take public transportation. That's critically important. But we have to offer multimodal forms of transportation. There's some other things that I'm going to talk about when I speak before the TAG luncheon at the State of Transportation coming up soon. And so they told me not to steal the thunder and for me not to speak too long on this topic. So you're going to have to buy a ticket, Scott, to get the rest of the story.
I shall. All right. Final question. I have a bunch more I want to ask, but my final question, so room's filled with folks from the business community. What would you ask of us? What's the one thing as business leaders that you would like us to do to help the city of Houston not just be a great city, but be a great global city? What's your request of us?
Thank you, and I appreciate the question. Be bold, be visionary. The port didn't just happen on its own. There were people who were bold. The Texas Medical Center didn't just happen on its own. People were bold. Houston has a lot that we can appreciate, but those achievements were made by yesterday's leaders in large part. Now, as we would say at my church, we are the Nehemiahs on the wall. So we have to continue to build on the city. And we have to be bold. We have to be visionary. And let me tell you, and it also means that it doesn't come cheap. The city is here to be a partner, okay? Where we need to get out of the way, we'll get out of the way. But where we need to be able to have the infrastructure to support your business and your businesses, then we need to have that infrastructure to be supportive. We can't make brick without straw, okay? We can't do it. But we need to be bold. We need to be visionary. We need to be highly competitive. And we need to work even better together. And we cannot, and indict me, I'm talking to me, not to other political leaders in this room, okay? We cannot even allow political personalities to stop that growth and development, or to take on initiatives that will cause other businesses and others to go someplace else. We can't run away from diversity. This is who we are. Stephen Kleinberg points out, it's the greatness of the diversity is the greatness of our city. What I would ask for the business community, you don't have to be political leaders, but you also need to lead. And you have to be careful where you put your dollars. If you're investing your dollars in personalities that's not advancing the city, then what are you investing in? Why work against your own self-interest? Okay? And so sometimes in the political discourse, you need that outside player to provide guidance even to the political system to say, check yourself, because what you are doing is not in our best interest. This is the time when the business community must speak loudly and clearly and give guidance. Oftentimes in a political environment where it is too divisive, you all must say time out, and that is not who we are, and it's not in our best interest. And so for the city of Houston, this is a great city. There is no other city on the face of the earth that has everything that we have in the city of Houston. The energy capital of the world, the largest medical center in the world, all of our colleges and institutions, the Johnson Space Center, the Port of Houston, #1 in foreign tonnage, the most diverse city in the country. But yet others are coming to us trying to get what we have and take it back with them. So as much as I'm disappointed with having lost Amazon, and I am, well, to me, this is our time to get ourselves ready for the next opportunity to come along. And if we all work together, there is no other city that can compete with this city when we all work together. We've seen that with the Astros, and they kick tail. When the Rockets play together, they prevail. When the Texans come along, they'll win too. The Dynamos, made it to the playoffs. This is our moment. This is our time. If any other city gets ahead of the city of Houston, it's not because they were better. It's just because we didn't play smart. And the business community is right there at the table.
Good. Let's hear it for our mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Scott. Thanks for those remarks. Let me just close with a couple of announcements. First of all, it always happens that we fail to mention a couple of elected officials, and in this case, they're great friends of mine. Harris County District Attorney Kim Ogg and Harris County Attorney Vince Ryan. Kim and Vince are hopefully you're still here. Wave if you are. Thank you. We do have a couple more events coming up. Let me just mention them. Houston's Global Economy on Friday, May 18th. Our keynote speaker is Scott Kirby, President of United Airlines. I hope you'll be here to hear Scott's remarks. State of Energy featuring Jeff Miller, President and CEO of Halliburton, is on June 15th. And last but not least, our upskill program, Upskill Works, will be on, I've lost the date, coming up in June with Rob Kaplan, President and CEO of Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it.